So what we talking about, the title of the class is Understanding the Root of Anger, Emotional Discipline Series. So emotions are carnal and not spiritual, meaning they're natural. The Spirit helps us deal with these carnal emotions. So the first thing we did was we read out this book by David Lieberman. He's a PhD in psychology. And we're going to get a quick perspective on anger. So read that from the top, page 9 again.
Three forces within us are often at odds with one another: the soul, the ego, and the body.
So it said there's three forces that are at odds with each other: the soul, our ego, and our body. Go ahead.
In short, the soul seeks to do what is right.
So the soul or the spirit, that is what seeks to do right. Our spirit always wants to do right. Go ahead.
The ego wants to be right and see itself in an optimal light.
So the ego wants to be right. Just wants to be right. The ego doesn't matter about doing what's right. The ego just wants to be right. Go ahead.
And the body just wants to escape from it all.
And the body wants to escape from it all, meaning it just wants to feel good. Go ahead.
When you make any decision in life, doing what feels comfortable or enjoyable is a body drive.
It's like doing what feels comfortable. That's what motivates the body. What feels good. The body is only motivated by what feels good. Go ahead.
Excesses of this type are overeating or oversleeping. In effect, doing something merely because it feels good. When we act based on an ego drive, it can run from the gamut from telling a joke at someone else's expense to making a lavish purchase that's beyond our means. When the ego reigns, we are not drawn to what is good.
You see, it say when our ego rules, meaning when your ego is making your decision. Read that again.
When the ego reigns, we are not drawn to what is good.
We're not drawn to what is good. Go ahead.
But to what makes us look good.
But what makes us look good. I know this about anger. We're going to tie it together. We're talking about spirit, ego, and body, but we're going to tie it all together. The ego is only drawn to what makes us look good, what makes us look right. Go ahead.
We gain self-esteem only when we make responsible choices and do what is right.
So it said real self-esteem comes from when we make choices and do what's right. That's where real self-esteem comes from. Go ahead.
This is a soul-oriented, moral, or conscious choice. Indeed, this is how self-esteem and self-control are intertwined. Emotional freedom doesn't mean doing whatever we feel.
It's like emotional freedom don't mean do what we feel. Go ahead.
Rather, it is doing what we truly want to do, despise our desires at the moment.
It said it's doing what we should do, what we want to do, despise our desires. So, keep going. That page 11, 10.
Imagine being on a diet and suddenly feeling the urge to eat a piece of chocolate. We fight the temptation, but eventually give in. Is this freedom or slavery? We felt like eating a piece of chocolate, and we did it. Did we like how we felt afterward?
It's like, do you like how you feel after eating that piece of chocolate? Did you like how you feel because you didn't display self-control? Go ahead.
When we choose responsibly, we exercise self-control and increase our self-esteem.
It said when we act responsible, we exercise self-control, and that's what increases our self-esteem. Let's hold it there. Let's look at the soul, the body, and the ego. Let's look at the soul first. Go to Matthew 26. Matthew 26, because the soul is the spirit. It's like the spirit is what try to make us do what's right. Matthew 26 and 41.
Matthew 26, verse 41. Watch and pray that ye enter not into temptation, that the spirit indeed is willing.
We'll say the spirit indeed is willing, go ahead.
But the flesh is weak.
But the flesh is weak. That's the fight. I remember it say the spirit, the soul is always willing to do what's good, but our flesh is weak, the body. Go to Proverbs 18. Proverbs 18. And we gonna tie all this together. Proverbs 18 and 14.
Proverbs chapter 18, verse 14. The spirit of a man will sustain his infirmity.
It says the spirit of a man will hold up his weaknesses, means sustain his weaknesses. Go ahead.
But a wounded spirit, who can bear?
But a wounded spirit, it won't hold up your infirmities. So a righteous spirit or our spirit is always willing to do right. This is what we have to depend on for doing what's right. We have to depend on our spirit. But when our spirit is jacked up, that what starts taking over? The body and ego. That's why I say when a wounded spirit, can't nobody bear a wounded spirit, because when your spirit is wounded, now you're making decisions off your ego, like the book say, your ego and your body. That's important. Let's look at the body. Well, first let's look at ego. Let's look at ego next. I want to read this right here. So let's read about ego. This is an article on God Questions. Read that second paragraph.
At the root of egotism itself, egotism is ultimately driven by pride.
It's a egotism is driven by pride. So we don't see ego in the Bible. What we see in the Bible is pride. Ego is driven by pride. Go ahead.
And thinking oneself worthy of the utmost attention or capable of complete self-sufficiency.
You see, somebody with ego is a prideful person that is capable of complete self-sufficiency. Meaning they're capable of doing everything in life on their own. That's it. That is part of ego, which is also driven by what? Pride. Go ahead.
At times, an egoist may be motivated by past hurt.
It's at times, somebody that has an ego is driven by past hurt. A lot of people with ego is driven by pride, but it comes from past trauma. Go ahead.
Betrayal, abuse, or abandonment may cause a person to believe he must always look out for himself.
You see that? It's a betrayal, abuse may cause somebody to create or have an ego. Go ahead. That's good. Yeah. Read again.
Betrayal, abuse, or abandonment may cause a person to believe he must always look out for himself because no one else will.
It said this trauma caused them to think they always have to look out for themselves. Go ahead.
Rather than trust others. Someone who has been hurt may isolate herself and believe she can only trust herself.
It says somebody that's been hurt will isolate themselves thinking they can only trust themselves. Go ahead.
Though not pride as we would generally conceive it. This is still an unbiblical stance that raises self to the status of a god.
It's saying this is an unbiblical stance that raises self like they a god. Because somebody who thinks they don't need somebody, guess what? If you think you can do this by yourself, now you're saying you don't need God. Ego is somebody that don't trust in nobody but themselves, and now they start to think that they don't even need God. That's where that road leads to. Now let's look at pride. Go to page 13. Go read page 13. Read that top part.
None of us wants to admit, even to ourselves, that we are selfish or lazy, much less a failure or flawed.
So it say, this is the stuff that we don't want to admit. Go ahead.
The ego is thus equipped with an elaborate array of shields and buffers.
Just say, read that part again.
The ego thus equipped with an elaborate array of shields and buffers.
It said the ego, when we develop egos, the egos is equipped with what it say, shields. What it say again?
Shields and buffers.
Shields and buffers. That's a fence. That's a defense or a wall. People with egos have walls up. It's like if they create that ego has shields and buffers. Go ahead.
Defense mechanisms.
And defense mechanisms. This is what pride leads to ego, and this is what ego has. Go ahead.
To thwart the harshness of reality, of course, instead of protecting us rather than itself. These defense mechanisms lead to increased instability and insecurity.
It's these defense mechanisms leads to more what is it? Instability, and what else?
Insecurity.
And insecurities. That's what an ego do. And it's driven by pride. Remember, this book is saying how to get rid of anger. And it said this is where it begins. This is the root. Basically said the root of anger is people's ego, which is driven by pride. Anger comes from pride. Go ahead.
And the wider the chasm between the truth and our ability to accept it, the more fragile our emotional health becomes.
Is that it for that first paragraph?
Yeah.
Let me see a second. That's it. So now let's get some scriptures. Go to Proverbs 13. So ego is built by our pride. Proverbs 13, verse 10.
Proverbs 13, verse 10. Only by pride come contention.
It say what?
Only by pride come contention.
It say only by pride come contention, means arguing, disputing. Go ahead.
But with the well advised is wisdom.
So it say only by pride comes contention, arguing. Means it's two people with egos. Two people that has defense mechanisms up. Two people that's not trying to do right, but just trying to be right. Because it say, only by pride come contention. Pride drives what? Egos. Go to Mark chapter 7. Remember, this is the root to anger. Mark chapter 7, verse 21.
Mark 7, verse 21. For from within, out of the heart of men, proceed evil
I'll
thoughts.
say, out of the heart of man proceed evil thoughts. Go ahead.
Proceed evil thoughts, adulteries, fornications, murders, thefts, covetousness, wickedness, deceit, lasciviousness, an evil eye, blasphemy, pride.
What?
Pride.
Pride. It say, out of the heart of man proceed evil thoughts. One of them, we go through this list all the time. I don't know if anybody ever noticed, pride was right there. Right? Go ahead.
Foolishness.
And foolishness. Watch verse 23.
All these evil things.
It say pride, it calls pride what? Evil. It calls pride evil. Pride drives ego. It say all these evil things, go ahead,
come from within and defile the man.
So pride is part of the things that defiles us. Pride is part of the things that defiles us, and pride is one of the things, is the thing that drives ego. Make you an egotistic person. Go to 1 John 2. 1 John 2, verse 16.
1 John 2, verse 16. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, and the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life.
And the pride of life is what?
Is not of the Father.
But what?
But is of the world.
Pride is worldly. Pride makes you worldly. That's one of the most cut scriptures in her, is pride is worldly. It says pride is not of the Father, but of the world. Go to Wisdom of Solomon 5. So pride makes us work. No matter how righteous we try to be, pride will still make you worldly. Wisdom of Solomon 5, verse 7.
Wisdom of Solomon 5, verse 7. We worry ourselves in the way of wickedness and destruction. Yea, we have gone through deserts where there lay no way. But as for the way of the Lord, we have not known it.
It says, for the way of the Lord, we have not known it. Watch verse 8.
What had pride profited us?
For people that's full of pride, what have it profited you? This is a question that the Most High is asking. What have pride profited us? What do it profit you to be right? What do your ego profit you? That's a rhetorical question because it don't profit you. Pride is an abomination. The Most High hate it. Which means when you're a godly person, you're supposed to hate pride. Because it don't profit us. Read that again.
What had pride profited us, or what good had riches with our vaunting brought us?
Go ahead.
All those things are passed away like a shadow.
It's saying all those things are passed away like a shadow. Go ahead.
And there's a post that hasted by.
It say pride, riches pass away like a shadow. That's all they do. Pride don't profit you. It don't profit you. Let's go to the body. Go to Galatians 5. So we looked at the three factors of anger. It said, or not the three factors, the three things that work against itself that drives anger. It was the soul, the ego, and then it said the body. Let's look at the body. Galatians 5:16.
Galatians 5, verse 16. This I say then, walk in the spirit, and ye shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh.
So it say, walk in the spirit, and you won't fulfill the lust of the flesh. Go ahead.
For the flesh lusteth against the spirit, and the spirit against the flesh. And these are contrary the one to the other, so that ye cannot do the things that ye would.
Jump to verse 24.
24. And they that are Christ have crucified the flesh with the affections and lusts.
All right.
If we live in the spirit, let us also walk in the spirit.
So that's the body. It's like the body, if we don't walk in the flesh, because remember, the flesh are just to make us feel good in the moment. That's all the body wants. The body don't want to deal. Our body don't want to deal with nothing. It don't want to deal with people. It don't want to deal with anything hard. It don't want to deal. The body don't want to deal with anything. It just wants to feel good all the time. That's what the body wants. The body just wants to feel good all the time. So he said, if you walk in the spirit is what wants to do right. The body just want to feel good. The ego just want to be right. So now let's look at the anger. Go to James chapter 3. James chapter 3, verse 13.
James 3 and 13. Who is a wise man and endued with knowledge among you? Let him show out of a good conversation his works with meekness of wisdom.
All right.
But if ye have bitter envying and strife in your hearts, glory not, and lie not against the truth.
So I say, if you have bitter envy and strife in your hearts, don't glory and don't lie against the truth. Verse 15.
This wisdom descended not from above, but is earthly, sensual, devilish.
It say it is earthly, sensual, and devilish. Let's look at that word for sensual. It's hey Jerry, he had that Bible dictionary. It's G5591. Let's look at that word sensual. Yeah. G5591. We're looking up the Greek word for that sensual.
The word is sukikos, it's spelled Psuchikos. It's sensitive, intimate, in distinction of one hand from 4152.
My bad. One of the words was sensitive. Sensitive, right?
Which is the higher or renovated nature, and on another form, which is the lower or bestial nature, natural, sensual. The psychikos person is one who yields in everything to the human reasonings of the soul.
It yields to everything to human reasonings of the soul, go ahead.
Not thinking there is need for help from above.
Not thinking there is a need from help from above. This is some of the same things we read about ego, pride. No need for help from above. Go ahead.
It describes the man in Adam. And what pertains to him, set in contrast to
Okay, go to 3, number 3.
translated natural.
It says translated as natural. Natural. Meaning your natural self. Meaning in our natural state, we think we don't need help from anybody. That's why I said our thoughts are miserable. The imaginations of man is only evil. It say we think we don't need help, not even from God. This is what the word sensual means. Now go to 1 Corinthians 2. And it also said natural. Now somebody that is sensual, meaning natural, or don't need wisdom from above, let's look at that. 1 Corinthians 2 start at 6.
1 Corinthians 2, verse 6. Sufficient to the man, sufficient to such a man is this punishment, which
where you at?
You said
1 Corinthians. 1 Corinthians 2 and 6.
1 Corinthians 2, verse 6. Howbeit we speak wisdom among them that are perfect, yet not the wisdom of this world, nor of the princes of this world that come to naught.
Right.
But we speak the wisdom of God in a mystery, even the hidden wisdom, which God ordained before the world unto our glory.
Jump to verse 11.
For what man knoweth the things of a man, save the spirit of man which is in him? Even so the things of God knoweth no man.
It's like the things of God no man to know but what?
But the Spirit of God.
Go ahead.
Now we have received not the spirit of the world, but the Spirit which is of God, that we might know the things that are freely given to us of God.
Go ahead.
Which things also we speak, not in the words which man's wisdom teacheth, but which the Holy Ghost teacheth, comparing spiritual things with spiritual.
It's like the Holy Ghost compares spiritual things with spiritual. Watch verse 14 is the point.
But the natural man receiveth not the things of the Spirit of God.
So it's like the natural man or the sensual man, because remember, sensual means natural. The sensual man don't receive the things of the Spirit of God. Go ahead.
For they are foolish unto him, neither can he know them, because they are spiritually discerned.
So people that are sensual means they can't receive the things from the Spirit of God. They can't receive the wisdom from above, and it's foolishness to them. How do you know it's foolishness to them? Because they can never apply it in the moment. Because why? Why is that important to apply the things in the moment? The things of God in the moment? Because that's the only time it counts. It don't matter when we at home studying. It don't matter when we just at home looking around, or when we at work, or when we at the time these things matter is when you're faced with them, when you're tempted by it. If you can't apply this when you're tempted by it, you're sensual, you're natural, because that's the only time it counts. That's when that pride and that ego is preventing it from happening. The pride and ego prevents people from doing it. Why do it prevent them from doing it? Because what the book say, the defense mechanisms take over. The ego's defense mechanisms take over. The walls take over. So that's why in the moment, it's a lost battle because you're not getting rid of your pride, which drives ego. Your ego drives defense mechanisms. Go to Jude chapter 1. Start at 8.
Jude chapter 1, verse 8. Likewise, also these filthy dreamers defile the flesh, despise dominion, and speak evil of dignities.
Right.
Yet Michael the archangel, when contending with the devil, he disputed about the body of Moses, durst not bring against him a railing accusation, but said, the Lord rebuke thee. But these speak evil of those things which they know not, but what they know naturally.
It's like, but what they know naturally as what?
As brute beasts. And those things they corrupt themselves.
It's like those natural things, those natural ways in the moment, we just corrupt ourselves because we go back to the natural things we know as being brute beasts. Before we came into the knowledge of the truth, before we knew about keeping the commandments, when we were just in the world being wicked, now that's natural because when you was in the world being wicked, you was just being natural. You were just being your natural self. But your natural self was what? What is called a brute beast. We was beasts out here. Not in a good way. We was out here in all types of mess. Go to 2 Peter 2. It say naturally we brute beasts. That's where ego and pride takes you to. Ego and pride takes you back to your natural brute beast self. Why are we talking about this? This is the root to anger. I want y'all to keep this in mind. It's not a pride lesson. It's about anger. 2 Peter 2, verse 10.
2 Peter 2, verse 10. But chiefly them that walk after the flesh in the lust of the uncleanliness and despise government. Presumptuous are they, self-willed. They are not afraid to speak evil of dignities.
Dignity, verse 11.
Whereas angels, where are greater in power and might, bring not railing accusation against them before the Lord.
Verse 12.
But these, as natural brute beasts, may be taken and destroyed, speak evil of the things that they understand not, and shall utterly perish in their own corruption.
Remember, it's a natural brute beast, you get corrupted. As natural brute beasts, we get corrupted. And it said, we speak evil of things that we don't understand. And that's going to make us perish in our own corruption. Go to chapter 1, read verse 3.
Second Peter
read 4.
Chapter 1, verse 4. Whereby are given unto us exceeding great and precious promises, that by these ye might be partakers of the divine nature.
Now remember, there's it's a brute beast is natural, but there's a divine nature. There's a divine nature. Go ahead.
Having escaped the corruption.
And that divine nature is what helps you escape corruption. Go ahead.
That is in the world through lust.
That is in the world through us. What is that divine nature? Go to Wisdom of Solomon chapter 1. It says it makes you escape corruption. Wisdom of Solomon 1 and 5.
Wisdom of Solomon chapter 1 verse 5. For the Holy Spirit of discipline will flee deceit.
It says that divine nature is the Holy Spirit of discipline. And we all lack discipline at times. We all know that there's a season where we're undisciplined. But when you're not, those seasons when you're not disciplined, guess what? That's when you go lose in those moments. That's when you go lose. That's when you lose in those moments that count. When you go through that season of undiscipline, you don't flee deceit. You don't flee sin. Matter of fact, you fall into it. Read that again, verse 5.
Wisdom of Solomon 1, verse 5. For the Holy Spirit of discipline will flee deceit.
And do what?
And remove from thoughts that are without understanding, and will not abide when unrighteousness comes in.
So that Holy Spirit of discipline, it also removes evil thoughts. It also removes evil thoughts. It helps you flee deceit, and it helps you remove those thoughts. Let's get some more. Go to Genesis 1. Genesis 1. So what we're talking about is anger itself is not a sin. Anger itself is not a sin. But what you do in anger is what makes it a sin. Because we have Genesis 1 and 27. We have the same emotions as the Most High. The Most High, He knows how to deal with them. And He gave us His word to teach us how to deal with them. Because the Most High it's not like He doesn't get angry. If the Most High loses His cool in anger, we all will be dead. Because we make the Most High mad almost every day, especially when we was in the world. So if he didn't know how to rule himself when he gets that emotion, we all will be dead. And He's given us the tools with His word how we supposed to show discipline in those times of anger. So we created His own image. Let's read that. Genesis 1 and 27.
Genesis 1, 27. So God created man in His own image. In the image of God created He him. Male and female created He them.
So He created us in His own image. The image of Christ, the image of the angels, everything. We're created in that image. And when you read the scriptures, you understand that they get the same emotions. Go to Psalm 7 and verse 11.
Psalm chapter 7, verse 11. God judgeth the righteous, and God is angry with them. Excuse me, and God is angry with the wicked every day.
You see that? It said God is angry with the wicked every day. It said every day. That means it'll be tsunamis. If He didn't know how to handle that, it'll be tsunamis, earthquakes, all type of stuff going on everywhere, every day, in every city, every day. But He knows how to rule His spirit when He gets angry. He knows how to handle Himself. So anger is not a sin itself. It's how we rule it, for the lack thereof. Go to 2 Ezra 16. Second Ezra 16 and 48.
Second Ezra 16, verse 48. The more will I be angry with them for their sin, saith the Lord.
He said, the more I will be angry with them. Why? For their sin. Verse 49.
Like as a whore envieth a right, honest, and virtuous woman.
It say a whore envies a virtuous woman. Like a whore envies a virtuous woman. Go ahead.
Verse 50. So shall righteousness hate iniquity, when she decketh herself, and shall accuse her to her face. When he cometh, that shall defend him that diligently searcheth out every sin upon earth.
So it's saying the Most High is angry with them for their sin. So the Most High has that anger. But this is the difference. Notice Sirach chapter 10. Sirach chapter 10 and 18.
Sirach chapter 10, verse 18. Pride was not made for men.
It's like what?
Pride was not made for men.
Pride, it wasn't made for us. It's like pride is not made for men. Right?
Nor furious anger for them that are born of a woman.
So pride and furious anger wasn't made for us. Pride and furious anger was not made for us. That's why pride is a big thing, man. The Most High is pride is an abomination. And it will destroy us because it leads to so much other things. It's the beginning of sin. It makes people develop egos. People with egos have that me factor. Pride wasn't meant for us. It drives us, it leads us down a road that we are not supposed to be in. Go to Sirach 1 and verse 21.
Sirach chapter 1, verse 21. The fear of the Lord driveth away sins, and where it is present, it turneth away wrath.
22.
A furious man cannot be justified, for the sway of his fury shall be his destruction.
It's like the actions of his fury is going to be his destruction. It's like a furious man cannot be justified. Talking about a furious woman too. They cannot be justified because why? Furious anger wasn't made for us. It wasn't made for us. Go to Proverbs 22. Proverbs 29. It say a furious man will not be justified. This is why. Why won't a furious man be justified? Proverbs 29 and 22. Why won't a furious man be justified?
Proverbs 29, verse 22. An angry man stirreth up strife, and a furious man aboundeth in transgression.
It's like a furious man abounds in transgression. He stays in transgression. He stays in sin. When those moments come, he cannot overcome anger. He cannot overcome ego. Because people with ego and pride and anger, everything is about them. So they take everything personally. People ask me, how do you have so much patience? How do you have so much? Well, the clear answer is I don't take nothing personally. That's the most simple answer there is. People who are always mad, people who are always in pride and ego, is because they take everything personally. Why do they take it personally? Because it's about them. That's ego. If you take everything personal, that means everything is about you. If you always getting mad, that means everything is about you. And trust me, everything is not about us. People with egos, you can't even talk to them because they make everything about themselves. Even other people's issues become about them. We're talking about me. How is this about you? Because it's the anger, it's the pride, and it's the ego. They all go hand in hand. Anger, pride, and ego goes hand in hand. And people wonder why, Marcus, why you can stay cool? I don't take nothing personal. It's not about me. There's a bigger picture. That's the simple answer. Forget what I think. Forget me. Go to Proverbs 22, verse 24.
Proverbs 22, verse 24. Make no friendship with an angry man.
It say, make no friendship with the angry man. Go ahead.
And with the furious man, thou shalt not go.
It says, stay away, angry people, prideful people. It's too much. It's too much. Let's read about this anger. Go to that book, page 63. We're going to read from the book, Never Get Angry Again. Page 63. Yeah, start from the second paragraph on top.
When a person experiences physical pain.
Now, what we're going to talk about is the root of anger. It comes from, remember it said egotist, it comes from sometimes people have ego based on past trauma. So now we're going to get into this about pain. Because anger, when you see people that has anger, they also have pain. There's no such thing as somebody in anger that's not in pain, that's not hurting, mentally or physically. There's no such thing as somebody in anger that has anger and no pain. So now we're just going to talk about pain. Go ahead.
When a person experiences physical pain, he's unable to let his mind drift. He can't help but be absorbed in the present moment.
Let's say physical pain makes your mind can't drift when you're in physical pain. Like when you break your leg or you have physical pain, your mind can't drift nowhere. Your mind is not going to be upon anything. It's not going to muse upon anything. You're going to be concentrated on that pain. That's what that's saying, right? Read that over, my bad.
When the person experiences physical pain, he's unable to let his mind drift. He can't help but be absorbed in the present moment. Emotional pain has the same capacity to bring us into the present.
It's a emotional pain has the same capacity, go ahead.
Pain, however, only acts as a fulcrum. It doesn't move us, but it gives us the opportunity to respond in one of three ways.
It's a pain, emotionally or physically, gives us an opportunity to respond in three ways. Let's read these three ways. Go ahead.
We can choose to avoid or dull the pain with endless distractions and excessive indulgence.
So a lot of people, when they experience emotional pain, they create distractions. That's one way. This is one way people process emotional pain. They indulge themselves. Read it again.
We can choose to avoid or dull the pain with endless distractions.
It say they dull the pain with endless distractions. Go ahead.
And excessive indulgence.
And excessive indulgence. Go ahead.
We can fortify ourselves and become.
Is that number two?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Go ahead.
We can fortify ourselves. We can fortify our false self and become indignant to compensate for feelings of weakness and vulnerability.
It say we create a false person to compensate for our, what it say? I want to use the exact words they say.
To compensate for feelings of weakness.
For feelings of weakness and what else?
Vulnerability.
And vulnerability. It say we create a false person to compensate for weaknesses and vulnerability. Go ahead.
Verse 3. Number 3. We can act responsibly.
And this is the third one. We can do what?
We can act responsibly, accept the outcome.
It say we can act responsibly by doing what? Accepting the outcome. Go ahead.
And seek meaning in the experience.
And it say we can accept the outcome and seek meaning in the experiences. Go ahead. Go ahead on it.
If we see and accept the difficult reality and get the message, the pain pierces our shell, the ego.
It say if we accept it, the pain pierces our ego. You see that? This is showing how to get rid of that ego. Is accepting pain. Accepting the outcome, no matter what the outcome is. You can accept it. And that pain that you having from that outcome, it pierces your ego. It destroys the defense mechanism. When you accept things, it pierces your defense mechanism, which is your ego. Read that last part again.
If we see and accept a difficult reality and get the message, then the pain pierces our shell, the ego.
It's saying the ego is our shell. The shell is our defense mechanism. Go ahead.
Instead of merely denting our image, the experience penetrates straight through to our soul.
Yeah. Go to the next page. Okay, that's it. All right, well, let's hit this first. So it said, accepting the outcome is what pierces our ego. Go to Leviticus 26. Before
Leviticus 26, verse 40. If they shall confess their iniquity and the iniquity of their fathers with their trespass which they trespassed against me, and that also they have walked contrary unto me, and that I also have walked contrary unto them, and have brought them into the land of their enemies, if then their uncircumcised hearts be humbled, and they then accept of the punishment of their iniquity.
Let's say if they accept the punishment of their iniquity. Are you pressing show? Is this showing?
Yeah.
Okay. My bad. It ain't showing online, but that's good.
Verse 42.
341 again, my bad.
41. And that I also have walked contrary unto them, and have brought them into the land of their enemies. And if then their uncircumcised hearts be humbled, and they then accept of the punishment of their iniquity.
It say, accept the punishment of our iniquity. Go ahead.
Then will I remember my covenant with Jacob, and also my covenant with Isaac, and also my covenant with Abraham will I remember, and I will remember the land.
You see that? So remember, it say accepting pierces the shell, which is our ego. This is going into the same thing with the Most High. We have to have acceptance. Go to Job chapter 2. We have to understand that there has to be a level of, if you just accept the outcome and go through the pain, accept the outcome and process the pain. Remember, we had three ways. It was one, you created a false narrative to compensate for being vulnerable and weak. The first one, I can't remember the first one. Let me see, what was the first one?
So
66. 63. Get a quick recap of what was the first one. We endless distractions. That was the first one. Endless distractions and indulging ourselves to make us busy so we wouldn't have to think about it. This is the emotional pain. And the third one was accepting the outcome, accepting it. And that's how you process it. Where you said, go to Job 2, verse 9. Job understood that.
Job chapter 2, verse 9. Then said his wife unto him, do thou still retain thy integrity? Curse God and die.
That's what Job said.
But he said unto her, thou speakest as one of the foolish women speak. What, shall we receive good at the hand of God? And shall we not receive evil?
So that's that accepting it, knowing that outcome was from God. Knowing that, yeah, we receive good from God, but we also what? Receive evil from God. So we have to accept it and go through the pain. Finish that off.
In all this, did not Job sin with his lips?
And Job didn't sin with his lips. We sin with our lips when we act like we don't understand why we going through stuff. That's a sin. When you don't accept the punishment of your iniquity, that's a sin. And we going crazy, getting pride, egos, and all this stuff. We just fall deeper. Go to Psalms 39.
On acceptance real quick about accepting the things that's to come. Let's get Isaiah 58 verse 9. But this because not only is it sin, but it's vain as well to not have accountability. All of us being men, women, children, having situations take place and not taking responsibility, that's vain. Not taking accountability, that's vain. Verse 9.
This is Isaiah chapter 58, verse 9. Then shalt thou call, and the Lord shall answer. And thou shalt cry, and he shall say, here I am.
And he say, so when we cry out to him, he say, he's going to hear us. Go ahead.
If.
He say, if. He say, all the times we crying out to him, he said he'll hear us. If what?
If thou take away from the midst of thee the yoke.
So he said, if we take away that yoke, meaning like all those heavy thoughts that just burden us, all the things that stress us out, he said he'll hear us if we get rid of that yoke that's bringing us down. Go ahead.
The putting forth of the finger.
And always point the finger at somebody else rather than yourself. Because a lot of times when things go bad, we like to point the finger at this person did this, or this person made me, feel this way. It says, so once you stop putting forth that finger, the Most High can start hearing you too. Go ahead.
And speaking vanity.
And also, while you pointing the finger, you're going to be speaking a lot of vain things because you're not accepting accountability. So whenever we know we're supposed to be growing in situations and we not taking accountability, we pointing the finger and we still speaking vanity.
This fall into our next scripture. Go to Psalm 39. Psalm 39 and verse 8 to 11.
Psalms 39 verse 8. Deliver me from all my transgressions. Make me not the reproach of the foolish.
So King David, he's saying, deliver me from all my sins and don't make me a reproach of the foolish, of the sinners. Don't make me the face of the sinners. Go ahead.
I was dumb.
He said, I was dumb, meaning I was mute. I couldn't speak. Go ahead.
I opened not my mouth.
I opened not my mouth. Why?
Because thou did.
Because he knew the Most High was doing it too. He said, I didn't open, like the same thing Job, he said, Job did not sin with his lips. It's the same thing here. King David had that understanding of, I did not open my mouth because I knew the Most High did it. King David this is a precept for that Job too. He did the exact same thing Job did. Job and King David, they knew that I get good from the Most High, I get evil from the Most High. And I can accept both. I'm not going to open my mouth and say why, because we know why. When we was in the world, we didn't know why. But being in the truth and understanding the Bible, we know why. Read verse 9 again.
Psalms 39, verse 9. I was dumb. I opened not my mouth because thou did it.
He said, because the Most High did it. He understood that the Most High did is doing this to me. I have to accept it and work my way through it, because when you don't accept it, there's no growth. Go ahead, verse 10.
Verse 10. Remove thy stroke away from me. I am consumed by the blow of thy hand.
He said, I am consumed by this, Lord. I am consumed by the blow of your hand. Go ahead, by this strike, this beat down you put on. Go ahead.
When thou with rebuke do correct man for iniquity, thou makest his beauty to consume away like a moth.
So it said when the Most High rebuke us for the iniquity, we lose our beauty. That's the point. We getting beat down. We getting tore up. I ain't never seen somebody look good when they cry. You look ugly when you cry. You ugly as hell when you cry. Because that's the Most High striking you. He taking that beauty from you. Finish that off.
Verse 11. When thou with rebuke do correct man for iniquity, thou makest his beauty to consume away like a moth. Surely every man is vanity. Say less.
So he says, surely every man is vain. But King David, he understood that I'm not going to open my mouth and speak vain things, knowing that this is the Most High that's doing it. Go to page 65 in that book. Page 65 in the book. Yeah, read that.
Why is this my challenge? Anyway, sometimes life just seems unfair.
It says sometimes life just seems unfair. This is for the people who don't accept that's not accepting it properly. Go ahead.
Outright painful, downright difficult, unjust. Yes, we control the quality of our lives and our emotional response to any given situation.
They say we control the quality of our lives and our emotional responses to any situation. This is important because this is going into anger. This is going into being in the moment. So he said we control that. Go ahead.
But a major source of anger derives from the belief that we have received undeserved and excessive hardship.
It's saying, but the anger comes when we believe we receiving something undeserved. Now we get into the root of anger. We get angry when we feel like we going through something that's not deserved, that we didn't deserve. Read that part, read that sentence again, where it's like anger.
Yes, we control the quality of our lives and our emotional response to any given situation. But a major source of anger derives
It's
from
like a major source of anger comes from
the belief that we have received undeserved and excessive hardship.
It's like when we receive undeserved and harsh hardships. Like we tell the Most High, look, I know I did this, but this is harsh. This is what, and this also when we receive something from our brothers and sisters that's undeserved, that we feel is, that we believe is undeserved. Now what's kicking in? Anger. Go ahead. Yeah, read that whole, yeah, even the highlighted part, just down to that. When we get to the last paragraph.
When objectively speaking, we experience a double or triple helping of struggles that others are spared. This understandably changes our senses of fairness, even if we accept that certain ordeals inspire self-reflection and growth.
It's like even if we understand that some ordeals inspire self-reflection and growth. It's like it inspires self-reflection and growth. Even when we know that, we can't get over the fact that it's unfair. Was that it on it?
Even if we accept that certain ordeals inspire reflection and growth, why is a particular flaw inherent in us?
It's like, why is it a particular flaw in us? So now go to page 75. We're talking about acceptance. This is acceptance. 75, 74. Yeah, here acceptance, yeah.
Trust equals acceptance. Acceptance equals anger-free. Acceptance means we do not ignore reality.
Let's say acceptance means not ignoring reality. Go ahead.
And if the reality is that we are in pain, then the height of responsibility is to recognize that this is a moment to be in pain.
Let's say when we are in pain, we have to recognize that this is our season for pain. Hold that spot. Go to Ecclesiastes 8. It said that when we are in pain, we have to just understand this is our moment of pain. This is our season of pain, especially when we're making the same mistakes. It seems like that season won't ever stop. Read verse 5.
Ecclesiastes chapter 8, verse 5. Whoso keepeth the commandment shall feel no evil thing, and the wise man's heart.
It say a wise man's mind do what?
Discerneth both time and judgment.
It say a wise man's heart can discern both time and judgment. A wise man can know this is a time of pain, and the understanding is judgment. Go back to the book. Read that part again about the moment. Or that last sentence.
Acceptance means we do not ignore reality. And if the reality is that we are in pain, then the height of responsibility is to recognize that this is a moment to be in, that this is a moment to be in pain.
It's like the height of responsibility is to recognize that this is a moment to be in pain. Go ahead. You can keep reading. You ain't gotta skip the highlight.
It is perfectly healthy, even obligatory, to feel this way. If we process the experience with patience and compassion for ourselves.
It's like if we process this pain with patience and compassion for ourselves. With patience and compassion for ourselves. Is one thing to be mad at yourself for what you did, but it's another thing to stay mad at yourself for what you did. You're not showing yourself any compassion. We say it again. It's one thing to be mad at yourself for what you did, but it's another thing to stay mad at yourself for what you did. You're not showing yourself any patience or compassion. How do you want the Most High to show you patience and compassion, but you don't show yourself it? How do you want your brothers and sisters to show you patience and compassion, but you don't show yourself it? That's not how it goes. Go ahead.
If we process the experience with patience and compassion for ourselves, then we move more swiftly to acceptance.
Then we move more swiftly to acceptance. A lot of people can't accept what's going on with them because just simply they're not showing themselves patience or compassion. Go ahead.
If, however, the ego is active.
But now, if that ego is activated, if that ego is active, that ego is never being destroyed. Go ahead.
Then we become filled with self-pity or false shame.
And we become filled with self-pity and false shame. If that ego is active. Go ahead.
We delay acceptance and add an unnecessary layer of suffering.
Ooh, read that part again.
We delay acceptance.
It says you delay, when that ego is active, you delay accepting the outcome. Go ahead.
And add unnecessary layer of suffering.
And you adding unnecessary layers of suffering. People who suffering mentally stay mad. But they're staying mad because they're adding anger, they're adding layers of suffering to their situations.
Let's get Sirach 5:5. Going off that line real quick. Sirach chapter 5 and verse 5.
The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 5, verse 5. Concerning propitiation, be not without fear, to add sin unto sin.
And that's what happens. So whenever we lose that focus to have fear towards the Lord, then we start adding sin unto sin. So those are the different layers. Those are the different extra things, the extra yokes we keep adding on to our walk. So don't be without fear, because whenever we start to add more sin to our lives or more layers, it's because we lost that balance of fearing the Lord first.
Yeah, read that last part again.
If, however, the ego is active, we then Then we become filled with self-pity or false shame. We delay acceptance and add an unnecessary layer of suffering. Self-pity judges our pain to be unfair.
It says self-pity judges our pain to be unfair. Remember, it says when we think something is anger comes when we think we're getting something from that's undeserved. And that self-pity makes you judge your pain to be unfair. Go ahead.
Poor me. I live an unfair life in an unjust world, suffering a cruel, undeserved fate. False shame declares our pain is justified because we are unworthy of good and of happiness.
Let me see where you at. Okay, that's good. Yeah, that's it on that. So it say that that's what the ego is what's causing us to not accept the punishment of our iniquity or not to accept these situations that's happening to us. It's our ego that's causing that. Now let's go to Ephesians 4. Because now that stuff is causing us to, that ego is causing us to be angry. The root of it is pride, ego, angry when we think we're getting an unfair deal. When we think people's not treating us how we deserve to be treated. That's the root of anger. You're not getting what you think you deserve. That's the root of it. But still, all in all, anger is not a sin. It's being quick to anger. Go to Ephesians 4:26. Ephesians 4:26.
Ephesians 4, verse 26. Be ye angry and sin not.
So I wanted to just make that clear. Anger is not the sin. Go ahead.
Be ye angry and sin not. Let not the sun go down upon your wrath, neither give place to the devil.
All right, go to James 1. So anger is not the sin. This is what the sin is. But before that, go to let's get that 1 and 19.
James 1, verse 19. Wherefore, my beloved brethren, that every man be swift to hear.
So swift to hear, go ahead.
Slow to speak, slow to wrath.
And slow to wrath. That's the sin. The sin is being soon angry. That's the sin. The sin is getting angry. When situations come, the sin comes is when you get angry fast. That's the sin. And when we was reading through that book, it's because you're not accepting it. You're not processing it. Your ego jumping away. Your pride jumping away. Your defense mechanism jumping away. That's the only thing you can get angry in the moment. You can get angry right then and there. But that's when you sin. Because you was soon angry. To say be slow to wrath. Was that it on that?
Yeah.
Go to Proverbs 14. Verse 29.
Proverbs 14, verse 29. He that is slow to wrath is of great understanding.
You see that? It's like a man that is slow to wrath is of great understanding. A man that is slow to anger is of great understanding. Read that again.
He that is slow to wrath is of great understanding. But he that is hasty of spirit
But he that is hasty of spirit, go ahead,
exalts his folly.
exalt folly. That's the difference. That's why I say slow to wrath, slow to anger. Because when some people is soon angry, that's a hasty spirit. It should take a lot for us to get angry. It's supposed to take a lot for us to where we get to that point to where we furious, angry. Especially because you in sin, when you soon angry. But you're soon angry because of ego and pride. And people with ego has the me factor. It's about them. It's about me. That's an ego. When you can change a whole person with problems and make it about yourself. That's an ego. That's that me factor. People with problems are people with problems. If somebody they can tell you, I did this because of you. You still not supposed to be. You gonna get angry. The only people that get angry at that is people with egos. I wish somebody would try to tell me they did something because of me. Your fault. Your fault. It's not on me. I don't have to get angry at that. The only reason I will get angry is based on ego and pride. If you go tell me I control you that much, I got that much power over you, your fault. It's still your fault. That's ego. If I say, oh, if I get all mad and now I'm angry, now that's because my ego, now my defense mechanism got to start firing. My survival ego, the ego gets activated. Now I got to start defending myself because you trying to make me look bad. I got to protect my image. You don't have to tell nobody what you are or who you are. You don't have to prove it. Ego is you just proving it to yourself. Go to Proverbs 15 and 18.
Proverbs 15, verse 18. A wrathful man stirreth up strife, but he that is slow to anger appeaseth strife.
It say he that is slow to anger appeases strife, meaning he removes strife. He's not putting wood on the fire. If you got two people put wood on the fire, you see it with people arguing, yelling at each other. They both just putting wood on the fire. They stirring up strife. Who's going to be the one to put the fire out? The first one, I'm just going to say it. Well, I ain't going to say it because the kid in here. I ain't going to say it because I want to say it's bad, but we might have kids listening. So I ain't going to say it. But y'all fill in the blank. The first person to put their blank up. The first person that put their blank away, that's when the woods, the fire start going out. That's when it goes out. Was that it? Yeah, go to chapter 16 and verse 32.
Proverbs 16, verse 32. He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty.
It say a man that's slow to anger is better than a warrior, better than the mighty. That's a good attribute. Patience is the best attribute you can have. That's what's going to get you the kingdom. But you got to put your blank up. You got to. If you don't, it's gonna be an unpeaceful life. It's gonna be an unpeaceful life. If you don't put that ego down, get that pride up out of you, get them defense mechanisms out, it's not about you. It's not about us. Read that again.
Proverbs 16:32. He that is slow to anger is better than the mighty, and he that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh a city.
It say, he that ruleth his spirit is better than the man that can overcome a city. Because that's what slow to anger means, is ruling your spirit. We're talking about self-control here. This is really what we're talking about. We're talking about self-control. That's what it's about, self-control. In the moment. Go to Proverbs 25. It says, he that ruleth his spirit. Proverbs 25 and 28.
Proverbs 25, verse 28. He that hath no rule over his own spirit is like a city that is broken down and without walls.
So it is like a city without protection. If you can't rule your spirit, it's like a city without protection. Go to chapter 14. Couple more, chapter 14 and 17. On slow angry or slow to anger.
Proverbs 14, verse 17. He that is soon angry dealeth foolishly.
It say, he that is soon angry deal foolishly. Go ahead.
And a man of wicked devices is hated.
So it say, he that is soon angry deal foolishly. That's good. Deal foolishly. That's good. Deal foolishly. Go to Ecclesiastes 7. Ecclesiastes 7 and verse 9.
Bluetooth mode.
Ecclesiastes chapter 7.
Connected. Line in mode.
Go ahead.
Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 9. Be not hasty in thy spirit to be angry.
It say, be not hasty in thy spirit to be angry. This is a commandment. Be not hasty in thy spirit to be angry. Go ahead.
For anger resteth in the bosom of fools.
It say, anger rests in the bosom of fools. Anger rests in the bosom of fools. It's just sitting there. It's sitting right next to ego, pride, and anger. They just sitting in you. They just sitting in your flesh having a party. Ego, pride, and anger just sitting in your flesh having a party. That's what's going on. Let's get that book. Go to page 73 in that book. We're going to talk about self-control. Because we was talking about a man ruling his spirit. Page 73 in the book. Yeah. Short.
Self-control equal peace of mind. We intuit via our conscience, the soul, that with each of our acts, a natural consequence occurs. When we engage,
with each act, a natural consequence occurs. Go ahead.
When we engage in conduct that we know to be wrong.
It's a when we engage in conduct that we know is wrong. Go ahead.
No matter how masterfully we justify it.
It's a no matter how we just try to justify it in our head. Go ahead.
The voice of our soul cries out in shame, although the ego often muffles the soul's cry.
It's a our ego muffles our spirit. Because you know you're doing this wrong, but your ego justifies it. Go ahead.
We unconsciously wait for the universe to drop the other proverbial shoe.
All right, jump here to the highlight.
Individuals with high life change scores, that is, they experience multiple life changes at one time.
So let's say when an individual experiences life-changing experience at the same time, like somebody that's going through a lot, but is at the same time, go ahead.
Or more likely to fall ill. Yet
It said that they're more likely to fall ill. You know, that's common. You're experiencing life-changing events at the same time. It causes you to go ill, meaning in heaviness. Go ahead.
Yet, most surprisingly, studies reveal that the illness correlates with any type of change.
So it said the illness is associated with any type of change. Go ahead.
Whether we perceive the event as positive or negative.
Whether it's positive or negative, any life-changing event, positive or negative, because it's change. Sometimes that's what change do to us. It affects us in a certain way, positive or negative. Go ahead.
It has no effect on the stress we experience.
It says, but it don't have no effect on the stress. It has no effect on the stress that we experience. Like the life-changing events that we're having, it makes us feel a certain way, but that the actual event is not the thing that's stressing us out, is what that's saying. Let's see what's stressing us out. Go ahead.
Rather, the stress level is determined by our need to control what is happening.
Where does stress come from?
Our need to control.
The stress comes from our need to control the situation. That is what's stressing us out. It's not the actual event, life-changing event. It's the stress is coming from our need to control. That's what gives us anxiety. Our need to control what is happening to us. Go ahead.
This is why we may find ourselves engaging in self-destructive behavior.
Now, that's why we engage in self-destructive behavior. It's like the need to control the event. Go ahead.
Even when things in our lives go particularly well.
Even when the things is going particularly well, the stress of not being in control is what gives us that stress. Go ahead.
The path to living anger-free is paved not by circumstances, but by choice. An individual who controls himself recognizes that he doesn't control the world.
You see that? Read that part again. I don't think y'all heard that. That's important. Read that part again.
An individual who controls himself.
It's like an individual with self-control, go ahead.
Recognizes that he doesn't control the world.
Recognizes that he don't control the world. A person with self-control realizes he don't control everything. He can only control himself. He know that he can't control his kids. He can't control his mama, his daddy, Tito at the job. The neighbor, he can only control himself. Only people with self-control comes to that realization. Go ahead.
And so he is not anxious.
And he's not anxious. Why?
In fact, this understanding offers solace because all he has to do is exercise self-control, and God will take care of the rest.
He said he knows that all he has to do is exercise self-control, and God will take care of the rest. If I do my part, the Bible says God will do his. If I don't do my part, God will still do his part, because his part is striking you down with his hand, chastising you. So he's doing his part either or. But if you doing what he tells you to do, he say blessings, peace. You get all those things. So a man with self-control, or a man just having that understanding that I can't control nothing but myself. I can't control somebody blaming me for what they did. I can't control that. Why will that make me mad? I can't control that person. Go ahead. Yeah, read on the Proverbs. Read all the way to the.
Conversely, one cannot control himself, falsely believes, courtesy of his ego.
It's a people who can't control themselves, they believe falsely because of their ego. Go ahead.
Courtesy of his ego, that he is or should be in control, and so becomes anxious in uncertain times and angry when reality unfolds against his expectations.
Ooh, it said a person without self-control, because of their ego, becomes anxious when things don't go how they expected. That's what makes them angry. Go ahead.
His full quest to control that which is beyond his control.
He said his quest to control the things that's beyond his control, go ahead,
will only lead him to lose more control over himself.
Will only lead for that man or woman to lose more control. So your need for control is just making you lose self-control, more self-control. That's why when you get in those moments, it don't go how you expect. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Trying to win a fight with a brick wall. This is a nuanced yet critical point. The more self-control we have, the more we see and accept.
Let's say the more self-control we have, the more we see and the more we accept. Go ahead.
What is within our control and what is not.
That's important. Read that again. My bad.
Therefore, the more self-control we have, the more we see and accept what is within our control and what is not.
Let's say the more self-control we have lets us see with the things we can control and the things we can't control. The more discipline you have, the more easier it is to see the things you control and the things you can't control. That's why the more people with a lot of patience, how would you trip off on something you had no control over? What is, I could have did this, I could have did that, I could have did anything you could have done is still no control. You don't control that. You don't control another person. That's the point. Was that the end of the program? Go ahead.
Therefore, we can, as the saying goes, let go and let God, because we know that when we have done all we can, God will do all we can.
You see that? It's like when we know that once we done all we can, God will do all that we can. That's an important part of that self-control. Let's get Sirach 41. 41 and 14.
Sirach 41, verse 14. My children, keep discipline in peace.
Just say, my children, keep discipline in peace. I mean, keep discipline for peace. If we want peace, we have to keep discipline. You can't keep thinking you can steady put wood on fires and think you getting peace. You can't think you can come into these situations, be undisciplined, and expect peace. That's what that was saying about self-control. If you want peace, keep discipline. And then your eyes will start to see that this person is blaming me for everything, but I'm not doing nothing to this person. I have no control on that. I've even humbled myself down and did what this person said they expect me to do, they wanted me to do, and they're still angry at me. They're still blaming me. Guess what? Now you realize, you know what? I really don't have no control over that. That person is full with anger. That person is full with pride, and that person is filled with ego. It don't matter what I do. This person is going to be mad at me. But you can't see that the more you lose control. The more you sit there and fall into the traps of that person. The more you sit there and indulge their insecurities, their lack of stability. The more you sit there and entertain that, the further you go down the rabbit hole with them. Read that again, verse 14.
Sirach 41, 14. My children, keep discipline in peace, for wisdom that is hid and a treasure that is not seen. What profit is in them both?
Now we're going to hear one more. Let's get one more book. This is called Anger, Taming a Powerful Emotion. Taming a Powerful Emotion. Let's get page 83. Because now we're going to talk about explosions. When you in that moment and you can't, and you get so angry, now you're exploding. Page 83, where that little line at the top, yeah.
Margaret prided herself on speaking her mind. At least people know where they stand with me.
It's like Margaret prided herself on speaking her mind. Now, at least people know where they stand. Go ahead.
She often said, in truth, Margaret's anger was out of control.
Yeah.
Beginning as a teenager, she had fallen into a pattern of verbally abusive behavior and had continued for 25 years. Margaret justified her tirades until the day her daughter left the following note. Dear Mom, I won't be home tonight.
So she said for 20 years, Margaret justified the way she talked to people, her anger, until her daughter left her a note. What the note say?
I can't take your screaming anymore.
She said, I can't take your screaming anymore. Go ahead.
I don't know what will happen to me, but at least I won't have to hear all the nasty things you say to me when I don't do everything you want. She signed the note, Lizzie. Margaret didn't scream when she read Lizzie's note. She called her pastor in tears. First, she said only, Lizzie has left. I don't know where she's gone. I'm so worried about her. Then she said the most hopeful thing she has said in years. I drove her away. I know I drove her away. My screaming and yelling drove her away.
Yeah, that's it. So let's say my screaming, go to page 85. Yeah, read that little part to there.
Explosive, angry behavior is never constructive.
So now what Margaret had was explosive anger. That's what it's talking about, explosive anger. Go ahead.
It not only hurts the person at whom it is directed, it destroys the self-esteem of the person who is out of control.
It said it destroys the person, it destroys your self-esteem. When you blurt out stuff and get angry in a moment, it said it destroys your self-esteem. Let's see why.
It destroys the self-esteem of the person who is out of control. No one can feel good about themselves when they think that they have no one can feel good about themselves when they think about what they have done.
It said nobody can feel good about themselves when they come down off screaming at somebody, being angry. You don't feel good about yourself, and that kills your self-esteem. Go ahead.
In the heat of such angry explosions, people say and do things they later regret.
You say you do and say things you later regret. Go ahead.
Undisciplined anger that expresses itself in verbal and physical explosions will ultimately destroy relationships.
It's a undisciplined anger will destroy relationships. That's what happens. Undisciplined anger destroy relationships. Go ahead.
The person on the receiving end loses respect for the person who is out of control.
It's the person getting that verbal attack loses respect to the person that's giving it. Go ahead.
And will eventually just avoid them.
Was that it? Yeah. Now go to Proverbs 21, meaning nobody likes an angry, contentious person. Nobody likes an angry, contentious person. That's the thing. That's why it say keep discipline for peace. That's the thing. Proverbs 21 and 19.
Proverbs 21, verse 19. It is better to do wilderness than with a contentious and an angry woman.
It says it's better to live in a tent than with a contentious and angry woman. That's what happened with Margaret's daughter. Margaret's daughter said, I don't know what's going to happen to me. She wrote her mama a note. I don't know what's going to happen to me, but it's better than stand here and hear you scream at me all the time. Nobody wants to live with a contentious and angry woman. Or a man. Let me throw that in there. 25 and 23.
Proverbs 25, verse 23.
Yeah.
The north wind driveth away rain.
It's like the north wind drive away rain. Go ahead.
So do an angry countenance, a backbiting tongue.
It's like the north wind drive away rain, just like an angry countenance and a backbiting tongue. Just an angry look drive people away. It's like an angry countenance. Go ahead.
It is better to dwell in the corner of the housetop than with a brawling woman and in a wide house.
So we have to learn how to we have to learn how to tame this anger. Know that it's ego. Know that it's pride. The commandments say, be slow to anger. That's the commandment. Anger is not the sin. It's what you do what you do when you angry, and being fast to anger, being soon angry. Go to one more. Sirach 8 and 16. Sirach 8 and 16.
Sirach 8, verse 16. Strive not with an angry man, and go not with him into a solitary place.
It say don't go with him into a solitary place, because this man has no control over his spirit. It ain't no telling what he gonna do. Go ahead.
For blood is as nothing in his sight,
Because blood is nothing in his sight. Go ahead.
and where there is no help, he will overthrow
And
it.
when you ain't got no help, you don't know what he gonna do with his anger. So this is how people don't want to be around angry people. You're unpredictable. You don't know what you're gonna do. You're unstable. Everything somebody say is offensive. Because why? Ego. Everything is about me. Me, 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 me. That's where anger is stemming from. Ego and pride. Ego is all about you. It's about me. Go to Sirach 40. There's a couple more. We covered a lot, so I ain't gonna get everything. Sirach 40, start at 1.
Sirach 4, verse 1. My son, defraud not the poor of his living, and make not the needy eyes to wait long.
Okay.
Make not an hungry soul sorrowful, neither provoke a man in his distress.
Yeah, 40. Yeah, 41.
It's a fool. Sirach 40, verse 1. Great travail is created for every man, and an heavy yoke is upon the sons of Adam, from the day that they go out of their mother's womb to the day that they return to the mother of all things.
So we're going to always be in tribulation. All right?
Their imagination of things to come, and the day of death trouble their thoughts, and cause fear of heart.
It caused fear of heart. Jump to verse 5.
Verse 5. Wrath and envy, trouble and unquietness, fear of death, and anger and strife, and in the time of rest upon his bed, his night sleep, do change his knowledge.
Let's say wrath, envy, anger, strife, unquietness, fear of death, change his knowledge in the time of rest and his night sleep, meaning they can't sleep. These are things that keeps people from sleeping. Anger is one of them. We just focusing on that anger. Anger will keep you up at night. It's one of the reasons that we are sleepless. Is because of that anger. Let's read one more thing because this gives a solution. This book, page 18. 18, it should be highlighted, or it should have a little mark. It's 18. Let's start there and then jump to there.
Although we normally think of anger as an emotion, it is in reality a cluster of emotions involving the body, the mind, and the will.
So let's say anger is not just one emotion, it's a cluster of emotions. Jump to that second.
Anger is fed by feelings of disappointment, hurt, rejection, and embarrassment.
You see that? Anger is fed by disappointment. Anger, hurt, disappointment, hurt, and rejection. And embarrassment. All these things feed anger. Go ahead.
Anger pits you against the person, place, or thing that sparked the emotion. It is the opposite of the feeling of love. Love draws you toward the person. Anger sets you against the person.
To say anger sets you against the person. Yeah. No, we don't need that example. Okay.
I'm saying that was it.
Yeah, right there. We can't.
We can't control our bodily reactions.
So I say we can't control our bodily reactions, meaning those jump up. Go ahead.
Becky and Tim and Ken are all experiencing strong negative emotions in their minds. But there's more. The body also gets in on the experience of anger.
So let's say anger is the body too. Go ahead.
The body's automatic nervous system gets the adrenaline flowing. Depending upon the level of anger, any or all of the following may happen physically. The adrenal glands release two hormones, epinephrine, adrenaline, or norepinephrine.
So when we anger, we have that a rush go through our body. Go ahead.
These two chemicals seem to give people the arousal, the tenseness, the excitement, the heat of anger, and in the turn of these hormones affect the heart rate, blood pressure, lung function, and digestive tract activity. We can't control our bodily reactions. However, we can control our mental and physical response to anger.
That's the key. We can't control our bodily reactions, but we can control our mental response to anger. That's the point. We can't control our body, how you get that tensed up and your heart rate get going when somebody make you mad, but you can control your mental responses to it. So that's the key. You can control what you say, what you think, what you say, how you respond. What you do, you ain't swiping no punches or nothing. All of that is what you can control, is your response. Go to Sirach 20. Well, Sirach 19. And verse 17. We're going to end it there.
Sirach 19, verse 17. Admonish thy neighbor before thou threaten him.
It say, correct your neighbor before you threaten him. We got to learn how to correct each other before we threaten each other. And this is our neighbor, but this applies to everybody. You have to apply this to everybody. Go ahead.
And not being angry.
And not being angry, do what?
Give place to the law of the Most High.
Give place to the law of the Most High. That's the thing. Not being angry, give place to the law of the Most High. Don't threaten people, correct them. And leave it alone. That's giving place to the Most High. One more, go to chapter 20 and read verse 2. Why I say correct them and don't threaten them? Why do it say that? Chapter 20, verse 2.
Sirach 20, verse 2. It is much better to reprove.
It is much better to correct somebody
than to be angry secretly.
Letting stuff build up. That's because when you let stuff build up, that's when it explodes. Go ahead.
And he that confesseth his fault shall be preserved from hurt.
So that's the thing. So we have to understand that the best defense for the anger is self-control. If you have that self-control, you start to see things in a different light. When you let go of that ego and realize it's not about you, everything's not about you. You can see that it's more patience. You gain more patience like that. Stop taking stuff personal. Because anger lies in ego and pride. So let's get Matthew 26, unless you're, I guess so.
Well, let's jump to chapter 2. Real quick. Let's get to Rock 2. Let's hit verse 17.
Ecclesiastes chapter 2, verse 17. They that fear the Lord will prepare their heart.
You see, so it say us that chooses to serve the Most High. Say we supposed to always have our hearts prepared for all different things, and more so since we talking about anger today, this is something we always got to have our mind prepared for. It's the times we will or possibly get angry. Go ahead.
And humble their souls in His sight.
So it say the ones who know how to humble our souls, the Most High say He go deal with us. He said, but if we come to serve Him, we supposed to prepare ourselves. So go to Ecclesiastes 3, because like I always tell people, when people don't know exactly what to prepare for, look at the different seasons in Ecclesiastes 3, because it give you a long list of different times you got to go through, from good and bad, or comfortable and uncomfortable. So Ecclesiastes 3 and 3.
Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 3. A time to kill and a time to heal.
So it's going to be a time to kill and a time to heal. Go ahead.
A time to break down and a time to build up.
Right, and during those times when we got to get broken down, that's where it's going to be easy to lean on your anger. The times when we got to get broken down before we can get built back up, that's where that anger go lie at. And if we don't prepare our souls for that season, that's where we fail. So we always know what type of seasons we got to deal with. We don't always know when, but at least we have knowledge of what we are to have to face. But when you don't prepare yourself, that's when you fall. So let's see what happens when you don't prepare yourself. Get 2 Chronicles 12. 2 Chronicles chapter 12 and hit verse 14.
2 Chronicles chapter 12 and verse 14.
This is what happens when you don't prepare yourself.
And he did evil because he prepared not his heart to seek the Lord.
You see that? So this is why the Most High always tells us to prepare our souls for temptation. Because when we don't prepare, we always give ourselves over to evilness. We always fall into evil things when we don't prepare ourselves. So that's why He always tells us the righteous, we go fear Him, we go humble our hearts to serve Him. Because when we don't prepare, we fall short. One more, Proverbs 16 and 11. Proverbs 16 and 11. And like I say, Ecclesiastes 3 is always a good chapter to look at when you want to get mind of what you got to deal with. When you want to prepare yourself because you know you might be weak in whatever area, breeze through Ecclesiastes 3 and look at all the different seasons you are to face.
The book of Proverbs, chapter 16, verse 11. A just weight and balance are the Lord's. All the weights of the bag are His work.
You see that it says, so all the weights of our bag, because all of us got our own bag of weight that we deal with, regardless of what it might be, from children, work, whatever, different sins or whatever. Read that again.
Proverbs chapter 16, verse 11. A just weight and balance are the Lord's. And all the weights of the bag are His work.
And it said, and all the weights of our bag, all the things we got to deal with, it's of Him. So meaning we got to start learning how to balance out our situations. The Most High put us in all the circumstances we dealing with for a reason. Our job is to take it patiently and learn how to balance it out. Because not balancing it out, you gonna be trying to carry this bag down the road and just gonna keep dropping everything inside your bag. It's like if you got like one clothes bag or something, you walking down the street, you go try to wrap it up as best as you can. So that way, as you go down your walk, everything not falling out. You're not making a mess. You want to keep all the things that was given to you. So when we go through these different seasons, the good, the bad, all of that is of the Most High. Say all of this is His work. So whenever we feel like it's too much going on in our bag, we got a problem with God. That's where it starts, and then it can, go elsewhere. But that's the overall problem is you get a problem with the Most High first when you don't prepare yourself.
God praise. Let's get Matthew 26, verse 6.
Matthew 26, verse 6. Now when Jesus was in Bethany, in the house of Simon the leper, there came unto him a woman having an alabaster box of very precious ointment, and poured it on his head as he sat at meat. But when his disciples saw it, they had indignation, saying, to what purpose is this waste? For this ointment might have been sold for much, and given to the poor. When Jesus understood it, he said unto them, why trouble ye the woman? For she hath wrought a good work upon me. For ye have the poor always with you, but me ye have not always. For in that she hath poured this ointment on my body, she did it for my burial. Verily I say unto you, wheresoever this gospel shall be preached in the whole world, there shall also this that this woman had done be told for a memorial of her.
So all praise for the memorial. Our foremother, she prepped Christ for his death, and she was a very good example of repentance. And so much, he told her every time we preach, he told us every time we preach the gospel to give this memorial of our foremother. So with that, we say shalom.